Hello YouTube. The project on deck now is the winterization of our Tahoe 234. It's October 3rd and we have not been up here in a couple weeks. It's just time to get this thing done. The first thing that we want to do is, I'll tell you what, let's just go through all the tools that we're gonna use for this project. I like to go through the procedures outlined in the factory service manual. We're gonna need a funnel, some damp red later, an empty container for the used oil because we are going to change the oil. My boat, which has the Mercruiser 350 MAG MPI engine, the 5.7 liter V8, it takes 4.5 quarts of oil, and the factory service manual recommends a 25 W40, so we're going to use that. We'll have a half of that. It's always good to have some channel locks. I don't know that I need these necessarily. Some fuel stabilizer. This is a 60-gallon tank, and what does this take? 1 ounce for every 2.5 gallons, so that's what is that? So 4 ounces for every 10 gallons. So 4 times 6, so it's 24 ounces. So almost that whole entire thing there. So some fuel stabilizer. Here's our oil filter. We may throw some fogging oil down the intake. Some napkins are nice. Some zip ties. We're going to remove the battery and we're going to use that to kind of tie up some of those cables and keep those organized while we're not here. Oil filter wrench is handy. You don't necessarily have to have that, and then since this boat is in the water, we're going to use this oil change. It's a pump, and you stick the tube down into the dipstick tube and suck all the oil out in that manner, because we don't want to pollute the water or try anything crazy out here. So that's just the best way to make that happen. And so there, yeah. So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and put some fuel stabilizer in here, and then we're going to go top off the tank over at the marina and make sure that there's as little air possible in the fuel tank over the winter. Guys, it's essential. You have to take your foil off first. And that's 16, we're going to call that good. The water's kind of choppy today, but we're just going to get out here and run this engine a little bit, get the engine up to operating temperature so that the oil is going to be easier to suck out of there. And then our last stop, we'll run by the marina and get some fuel to top it off, and then we'll start the winterization. A lot of those waves are just going to be good enough to kind of shake the stay bill up in the tank and get that whole thing all gyrated in there. And I think 5 minutes is probably enough to run on that to get some sort of a base, like kind of make it run through the whole system is what I'm trying to say. And then we'll just fill her up, top her off. Okay, now it's time to get that old oil out of there. And what I like to do here is, with my paper towels, kind of protect my carpet here. I'll just pull out a little piece of this, get myself a place to work. There. There. And that way I've got something handy, and then I'll just keep my roll of paper towels handy to where yeah, I can clean up any spills as they come along. So let's, what do we want to do? Let's take out our dipstick and get ready to pump that oil out. And here's our oil changer. I don't know if you're familiar with these. I'll plug these alligator clips back there to the battery to give it power. and then you have an outside, an inside. This will go into the dipstick. This will go into our 5-gallon empty bucket. Okay, and here's the, again, that's the inside. We're gonna screw that in. We've already pulled our dipstick out and run a paper towel on it and set it aside. The alligator clips on this are connected to the battery. And now we can just, tell you what, I like to run. This thing's been sitting in this bag all year with oil all over it, so why not just run a clean paper towel, because we're about to stick it down our dipstick. All right. Okay, and you just keep feeding that until it gets to the bottom. And now we can attach the other hose, but have your canister ready for your used oil, because that's where it's going to go into. And we don't so much care about the cleanliness of this one because it's coming out the outputs. Okay, put that in there, just set this here, and let it go. And it's going to take it just a minute to prime, but once it gets a prime in there, it'll start flowing a lot faster. All right, I'm not sure what's going on here, so let's. Sure it's not cross-threaded. So my pump is not catching prime. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's probably not a Walmart for an hour and a half. Tell you what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to see if I can gravity feed some of this oil into this line, and maybe create a prime, get a prime going, and then stick it back in the dipstick. All right, there it goes. Okay, so the pump is starting to only give us a few drops at a time. I think we're going to call this good and just try to tidy this up and then change our oil filter. Well, that's loud. All right, so right here, I'll stick that here. Let's see. Kind of let any of that in the intake drain out the wheel, and then we'll just coil these things up, throw them back in that gallon Ziploc bag, and mess with it next year. there. Just try to extend the line. Let anything in there drain out. And then coil it up. Put a cap on that so we don't do the unthinkable. All right, and then we can just wipe off the outside of this package and then toss it over here. We're good. And you can probably see here that we only collected four quarts. 1, 2, 3, 4. We only collected 4 quarts of oil. The capacity is 4.5. It may be that some is still stuck in the bottom of that thing. So what we'll do is we'll put 4 quarts in of new oil after we change the filter, and then we'll check the oil level just to make sure. We don't want to overfill this thing. We'll attach our screws back to our pump, move it out of the way, and also disconnect it from the battery. We're going to go ahead and clean up the dipstick and put it back in. Okay, over here is our oil filter. So what we're going to do here is stuff some paper towels. We're going to throw some down here. And throw some right here. And then we'll just throw some right there. Okay, the oil filter is too tight to move by hand, so we're going to use our oil filter wrench and get that started there. Boy, that thing was on there good. And now we're just gonna have oil, paper towels in hand, ready to clean up any residual that kind of comes off this. Here, and we'll just clean off this top plate here, get it ready for the new one. Okay, here's your part number on this. It's a 35-866340Q03, and we're going to put a little oil on that gasket there to get it ready. Finger there, and just some of that right there. Okay, we can set our, put a paper towel in the oil box like that and set our used filter down in that box for transport to our local auto parts store or local shop. Okay, now that there's oil around that gasket, we'll go ahead and screw this in. All right, so that's the point where it gets tight. And if we wanted to, we could mark it like that, and then we'll just go a half a turn to 3/4 of a turn more. All right, and that's about 3/4, and we'll call that good. Okay, and we got our funnel handy, and let's remove our oil fill cap. Set that aside. Let's clean out that funnel. I think I'm just going to start out with maybe 3.5 quarts. Who knows? I mean, maybe I didn't get it right in the prior year, but let's just start with 3.5 quarts instead of 4.5, and then we'll pull the dipstick and see where that puts us. Okay, so it looks like we're left with about half a quart. I don't know if you can see that. But let's go ahead and button this thing up. We'll run it, let it run through the filter, and then we'll check our level again and see how close we are then. Okay, that's been running for about 3 or 4 minutes. We're going to cut that off and then check the level. Okay, let's see what we got now. Okay, can you see that there? Maybe this gets it better. We are not yet to the full mark. We're about right there. So let's go ahead and add another half quart. We'll add that final half quart, and I think we'll be right where we need to be on this. Okay, so there's a note for you there. We did not go by the factory service manual because I'm pretty sure that we left a half quart of oil in the pan just because of the way that we have to do this. Since we can't drain from the bottom plug, we're going to have a little bit of a residual left over, so we need to account for that and not put in the entire 4.5 quart, you know, that the capacity would be. Okay, guys and girls, that's a little bit over there, but I think I'm okay with that. That's about as good as we're going to do, and I don't feel like sucking out anymore, so I guess it's going to have to be good. I think we may be on a little bit of an incline too, because I'm kind of pulled up in the slip on the lift, so who knows. Let's just call that good, and we'll go on to the getting the water out of the block. Okay, now it's time to get the boat out of the water so that we can drain all of the water out of the block. And to do that, we're just going to use our airlift there. Okay, now we're going to use the instructions from my mildew-stained service manual. Right here. And for our boat, let's see, remove the blue drain plug from the distribution housing lower front port side. So that's going to be right down here. Can you see that one right there? Okay, so we'll remove that one first. And you can see water just pouring out of there. This is the blue drain plug that we removed there. And it is just pouring. I'll turn the bilge pump on here in a second to catch some of that. Okay, and within 30 seconds you also want to remove this plug. The last two are kind of tricky because they're way the heck up under here. And you can see, let's see, right in there. No, I gotta find a better way to do this. Okay, so I can't really even get my camera down there to show you, but this is the picture of this over here, but it's facing, you know, this way. It's coming in facing that way. So let me see if I can get a light over there and see if I can get you a shot of those drain plugs there. Okay, so here's a shot of the drain plug through there. The other one is just about 2 inches below it. So they're both right there facing the same way. I'm not gonna be able to give you a play-by-play on that because I'm gonna have to crawl in there in a weird spot. Okay, so both of those are out down there and draining. We're supposed to let this drain for about 5 minutes, and then then we can just crank the engine over slightly with a starter motor to purge any water. Tap in the seawater pickup, don't allow it to start, and then we just have to install those drain plugs again. We'll probably go ahead and install those today, since it'll already, and that way, you know, whenever we get to the water next year, it'll be ready to go. Okay, we're back here at the rear of the boat, and I want to go ahead and just tell you what's next on my agenda here. I'm not going to bore you through all this, but right here you've got these 2 batteries. Each of them has a positive and negative, and a few of them have multiple connections to them. I found in prior years it's just best to sometimes, you know, these are tight and you have to use some channel locks to get that wing nut off there. But once you do, have a zip tie ready, and just zip tie those connections together, throw it aside, and then go to the next one. And then next season when you get here, you just pop the batteries in, and there's no frustration with trying to figure out what goes where. Okay, so we're essentially winterized. The only thing more that I'm going to do is I'll take some damp red. This stuff's pretty easy. You just peel off the cover and then set this under your cover. Put your cover on top of it, and then this will help try to keep some of that moisture out of there that causes the mold, the mildew, and makes your cleanup job in the spring worse. So if the video was helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. Consider subscribing. We got a lot of other good stuff on the channel related to boat, ATV, RV, home, auto, maintenance kind of stuff. Anything to save you a few bucks. So in this case, I think we probably saved about $300 or $400, judging from the quote that I received from the local marine shop. All right, we did this. Not sure what that is. Sure, we did that. Did this, except for this. I do this in the spring. I didn't fog the engine. I don't know, that may be a gimmick. I brought the stuff to do it, but I just didn't have my wrenches when it was time to pull the air filter off. So that's what we would have spent instead of much less. And I feel pretty good about that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope to see you on down the line.